My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation? It's your boy Roger, and it's another episode of the Knighted Ones. In fact, it's number 108. Super exciting stuff for this week. We're back to football again, so we'll be talking a little bit of Baylor football. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer, and IG star shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, Big 12 Huddle, 4th and Florida, and their new stream, which none of those are happening, so it's fine, but I'm going to keep saying it. That being said, this week we've got Baylor to look forward to. We've got so we'll go and analyze some of that Baylor stuff. There's some other UCF news that's come out this week that we'll talk about. Some things like stadium upgrades that we have to talk about. The coaching carousel is going crazy. We'll do some score predictions. We've got hoops to talk about, not one, but two hoops games, and see how we're doing. Ben Stout will be joining us later to talk about that. We've got lots of listener love to talk about. And then other UCF sports that a bunch of people don't watch, but we do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring the one, the only, last but not least, but since he's the only one here with me right now, Josh Lazar, back to the stage. Welcome back, Josh.
I'm first. I'm not last.
Well, technically, I was first. But...
Well, you know what? Pause. Hey, I will say this. Hello, world. It is great to be back, and it's there's something that's going on that's so amazing in Night Nation, and it has to do with the other football. But I'm going to talk about that later in the podcast, as you know, because we talk about the sports that basically me and Roger watch every so often beyond the rest of the podcast later in the day. But we have a lot of hoops and a lot of basketball. You are not wrong. A lot of things to talk about that are outside of that, including hopefully getting on the positive side of this Baylor game and not being tied 1-1.
Yeah. And as far as that is concerned, big week for UCF women's soccer. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But let's go ahead and get dig into Baylor. We don't have a game 2 review, but from last week, but we do have a game 2 preview. We're going to Baylor to chat with and hang out with the Bears. Dave Aranda had his coaching show this week. Man, am I glad he's not our coach. I mean, seriously, 100%. Listen to him; he can put you to sleep. He is very intelligent. One of the things that was a takeaway for me, though, from his review was the very fact we've been talking about the offense and what Scottfrost has been doing as far as the offense is concerned, and being a scheme team versus a system team. And we're definitely a scheme team. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that and how, we were talking about receivers not knowing where there should be, etc. Part of what we asked of them, of the team, of the bye week was also talking about making sure that they're dialing the fundamentals in, making sure that they're getting more installs in. So what I'm expecting is more wrinkles this game than what we had seen in previous games. I'm also expecting us to be a little bit more creative because we're scheming a lot of one-on-one matchups. And that's what David Aranda saw on his side of the world. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about, Baylor. So Baylor's got 4 wins and 4 losses. So they're 4-4. Their defense has been lackluster all season long. Offensively, they can score points. So the thing that also seems to happen with them this year is that they're a second half team, like third and fourth quarter. They seem to put on a lot of points. They lost against Auburn 38-24. They lost in double overtime, or won against in double overtime against number 17 SMU. Stanford, who cares? Arizona State, they lost 27-24. Arizona State is a good team this year as well. Won against Oklahoma State. That's a throwaway, quite frankly, because Oklahoma State is just terrible this year. They did beat K-State, though, 3 weeks ago, 35-34. Lost against TCU in a tight one where they came back 42-36, and then lost to Cincinnati last week, 41-20. We're coming off a bye this week. We had a lot of momentum going into the bye this week. We did learn, unfortunately, that Scottfrost did tell us that Stacey Gage is out. And the reason he's out is he's had to have surgery. So we were talking about him last week. He will not be available for this game. Baylor is one of those teams that's kind of like middle of the pack right now. They've got terrible defense, but they can score some points. As far as statistically is concerned, they're led by their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, who's actually a pretty good quarterback for the season. He's got over 2,500 yards. His completion percentage is 61%. He's averaging about 7.7 per pass attempt, 23 TDs and 7 interceptions. So the TD to interception ratio, is pretty solid. So the team may be, as Lily T says, mid, but even though they are technically mid, the quarterback is actually really, really good. And he has even better numbers when you're talking about in conference. So in conference, his quarterback rating is 141.9. He's completing 61% of his passes. So he's a fairly good quarterback, and someone, if you've got a good quarterback, you're going to win some games. Lily T says, I'm so sick of losing. I hate losing as a former UCF athlete. I agree. But here's the thing, right? We're already 4 wins in so far this season. The ceiling that we had talked about was 4. And Baylor, I think, is a more winnable game than what we expected at the beginning of the season. Most people were talking about Baylor as a team that could contend for a conference championship this year, but they're not. They're pretty terrible. So for me, I think this is kind of a litmus test.
Test.
This is a litmus test game for our team, because they came out of this bye week off of a win. They've got some excitement and some buzz. Really the ceiling has raised, I think, for all of us. We expect this to be hopefully a bowl season. And we put a lot of points on the board, right? So I feel like last game we saw the offense come together and show us what they could be, and not just, throw the ball around the yard and put a lot of yards out there, but also score the points. And against Baylor's defense is pretty terrible. So I think the problem Baylor's going to have is our defense is the number 2 in the conference right now. And it's a top defense in all of college football. So if you look at the matchup statistically, their defense is terrible. Our offense is finding its way. Their offense is pretty good, but our defense is even better than what their offense is. To me, this lines up really, really well for another UCF win. And if we do win this week, that means all we need is OSU, really, and we're pretty much guaranteed to go bowling this year. Although something came out about that this week. Guess where the bowl predictions are and who we would be playing in the bowl this year?
Let me guess. It's some cows in Gaines and Tampa or something.
Yes. Well, the Cure Bowl is what they're predicting. The Cure Bowl is what they're predicting. But yeah, I do not want to play them in the Cure Bowl. So, when we're talking about, but let's go back to Baylor as stats as a whole, right? So quarterback is pretty solid. This season's passing, he's actually gotten a little bit better on his completion percentage, but he's regressed in some of the areas as far as your yards per attempt, et cetera. For the team as a whole, last year was all about defense. This year has been about offense for them. They had a solid defense. David Aranda is a defensive coordinator. last year. They had a terrible offense. This season, they don't have a good defense. They have a good offense. The crazy thing about it is when you talk about Dave Aranda talking about his team, because I actually listened to his interview that he did. When you're talking about his team this year, what I heard was different pieces that said basically this team isn't motivated and they're down on themselves because they're losing. And now they're on a 2-game losing streak coming into this game versus UCF. So that's going to go one of two ways. They could completely collapse. If we get ahead a little bit early, I could see this going into a complete collapse for this team because they don't seem to have that mental strength. Now, what they do have, and the other thing that they don't have that David Aranda talked about was consistency in execution. So he said that they were quote unquote motivated this week in practice, but the consistency and execution was lacking. So, if your own head coach is saying that, that's pretty familiar, right, for us, because what did we hear from Scottfrost, right, is that execution and consistency and execution. But, when it comes to hearing an opposing head coach say that, I think that bodes well for UCF. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I would say this. I wouldn't say must win is the term I want to use, but this is a game that is very, very useful for UCF to win. Look, we are staring down some minus OSU really tough teams. Houston, going to be a tough team. Going out to Utah, BYU, tough team, right? Almost every other team I didn't check right now. Like every other team other than OSU and Baylor, I think are ranked right now, or either are ranked or close.
Yeah, they are.
So we're at the point where we got to knock someone off, or we got to take care of business on one hard game. OSU, I don't want to discount OSU, but they don't have Gundy. They're kind of disarray. It's what it is. So things look set up to do well, and I feel like this is another one of those games where it's us, right? Are we healthy enough? I know Gage is out, right? Are we healthy enough? Can our QBs do well enough? Can our offensive line either hold up enough, or can we get the ball out quick enough in space to do some damage? Like we'll see, right? It depends on game shows up, because frankly, there's been a couple of games where we should have had a better shot, and we didn't. So.
Well, when we talk about the team, they're averaging 34.3 points per game this year. So, they can score some points, but our defense, I think, is good enough that will hold them back. So, I think we're going to be good there. They're about a 38% team as far as third down efficiency is concerned. Anything over 30 or anything close to 40% means that you're going to do pretty well. And they do like to go forward on fourth down like we do. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a football season like this one where people like to go for it on fourth as much as I have this season. They're 54%. So realistically speaking, that 38% is a much higher percentage if you consider fourth downs as well, right? So ultimately, we're going to have to get them. We're going to have to make sure that early on first down or second down, we're not making it third and manageable, right? We're going to have to get them back behind the chains. Their rushing attack isn't great. They've got they're averaging about 4.2 yards per carry. But their defense is giving up in between 6 and 7 yards per carry. So from a rushing perspective, they're not a great running team. They're a decent running team, but what our front line, our defensive line, and especially the interior linemen are going to be able, I feel like, to be able to close down the run game for them. And they're terrible. So if we're going to have Miles Montgomery have any kind of showing, right? If he's going to have a breakthrough game, this is the game that he needs to have it. They're averaging about 318 yards per game passing, 140 yards per game rushing. So definitely a more heavily weighted passing team than they are a rushing team. And 400 and about 50 yards per game total offense, which is what we are averaging as well right now. So they're averaging 458.6, so they can move the ball. But I think our defense is better than theirs are. As far as time of possession is concerned, they usually keep it around even. So the time of possession is going to be the same. Penalties, they're pretty heavily penalized team as well. As far as the players are concerned and individuals, their leading rusher is Washington. He's got 603 yards on the season. They do have Turner as well, who he actually averages 5.4, whereas Washington averages 5. But again, overall, the team is averaging less than 4 yards per game. They do give up a lot of sacks, and that affects that as well, and a lot of TFLs. So, being able, having our guys get downhill and being able to contain these guys should be a positive. Cameron is their leading receiver at 576 yards. Their leading tackler is their linebacker, Thomas, with 71 tackles. And they do have a safety, Jay Redding, who has 2 interceptions. So one of the things we're going to have to do is, again, taking care of the ball and making sure from from the quarterback's perspective that we should be able to handle that. Dave Aranda is a good defensive coordinator. He's going to try to get in our quarterbacks' heads. They're going to be clogging up passing lanes. They're going to be watching the tape. But again, we're not a system team, right? We're a scheme team, which means that we're going to be switching things up week to week, and we've got an extra week for us to be able to do that. Although Scottfrost said last week they were working on fundamentals. They had 3 practices last week in the bye week. They were working on primarily fundamental things, individual things that they needed to get better at, not fundamentals in general, but things that he saw. And then they had 1 extra practice for Baylor. And then they're going to have their regular game week, practice game week for this week. So we weren't focused on Baylor at all. We were primarily focused on fundamentals and fixing the fundamentals and some of the things that we saw to help with that execution side of things. So if, as far as their defense is concerned, just looking at them, as far as turnovers are concerned, they've only got 8 sacks for the year. So I feel pretty good with our offensive line. As far as interceptions are concerned, they've got 5 for the year. So they're averaging roughly a half an interception every game, or basically one every other game. Basically, fumbles, they're not turning over a lot of fumbles, and they're not causing a lot of fumbles. So again, defensively, this team is not great. Offense, if this offense can get on the field and play anywhere near how they were playing last time we played against West Virginia, I think this is going to be a long game for Baylor, and I feel a lot better about getting bowl eligible. But of course, we'll have to see where this takes us. Anything you want to add to that, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, again, not a must-win per se, but there's not more than 1 easy game left. They're just not. You don't get ranked or darn near close to ranked for no reason. The rest of the way is hard. It's hard. It's hard with teams that spent a lot of money and are doing well with not only the money but the players they have. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of money and have fired coaches. So
Dave Aranda is going to be. Dave Aranda is a dead man walking too this season. He almost got fired 2 seasons ago.
I mean, at this point, he's 35 and 34, if I read correctly in some of the notes. If we beat them at home, I don't even know if it's their homecoming game or something like that, but if we beat them at home, it's not going to be good. I don't think he's like fire on the spot, but it's not going to be good. And so this is one of the potential games we need. And I hope that not only, that I'm sure Coach Frost isn't like just dedicating time to that. It's fun, like you said, the fundamentals and all these other pieces. But there are, I would assume there's a little extra motivation on top of everything else to try to do as best we can, knowing that we just have really, really, really good teams, sorry OSU, on the way. So to get to where we want to get to, we're going to need to beat some teams. And this is the next one up. So
it was so
I
funny.
really got
It was so funny. Like Dave Aranda was asked, they were talking about their fan base and getting, loud and starting to rumble and grumble a little bit. He was asked about winning and, how important it is and whatever. He's like, the only way he answered it was like, go watch, if you want to watch some comedy gold, go watch Dave Aranda's, it was incoherent. Like when he starts talking about football, you can really tell, but he was just like, yeah, wins are important. Yeah. It's important for team wins. So It was just terrible. All right. Let's go ahead and pause just for a second. I want to go ahead and bring Ben has joined us. So he's finished dinner. So let's go ahead and bring Ben. Ben, I think you have a little bit in your beard there, buddy.
No. I mean, don't give me a hard time for coaching a 12-year-old basketball team late into the night to coming home.
Oh, I'm not giving you a hard time for that at all. I mean, honestly, I just that's one of the great things about you is how involved of a father you are with your kids and all the sports that they've got. That means we miss out on you sometimes, but honestly, being a father, that's most important.
Roger was talking about Baylor running 4 yards a game instead of 4 yards a carry. So it's okay.
Carry,
4 yards a game. We should have a great chance against them.
Yeah, I know. We roll it back, Roger. I throw it in the chat. That was a fun one. But you know what? It's always better with you here, Ben. So
thanks, buddy. Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, glad you're back, man. And we're gonna need you for the hoops discussion a little bit later too. But
yeah, no doubt.
But realistically speaking, I mean, this Baylor team, I think we have a better shot at beating Baylor than I think anybody gave us credit for, even within the last 2 weeks. They're going to put points on the board against people, or they have the potential to do it. But their offense, I don't think, is not as good as our defense. And I think our defense will shut them down. They're going to be a pass-happy team. We're going to try to get after the quarterback. Their quarterback is, definitely a serviceable and a decent quarterback. The problem that they're going to have is that their offensive line is not great. And so we have a lot of TFLs, or they have a lot of TFLs, and they have sacks. And so if we can get, if we're going to rush them early and often, and if we can get any kind of penetration early, then what's going to end up happening? Is that they're going to get behind the chains. And if they get behind the chains, we're going to get them off the field pretty quickly. That's kind of how I see this happening, this going. And because they have a late start, they're a second half team. If we get off to a quick start, we're going to force them into passing situations. And if we force them into passing situations, it's going to be a long day because our defensive line can get after it. Because if they become one-dimensional, just like West Virginia did, they did it with the running game. If they get one-dimensional with the passing game, which, by the way, West Virginia last week went off and won their game. I don't know if you saw that, but Fox went off. And they beat, who did they beat? They beat well, no, they didn't. Actually, they lost that game. They
lost. They're still on 5.
23. No, I don't know what I was thinking there. Yeah, 23-17 they lost, but they were leading TCU. What's that?
They weren't blown out.
No, that's for sure. And TCU.
Good for you guys.
Good job.
Wow. Are we really giving them the golf clap? Oh, come on. We gotta be nicer to them. They're down bad. But listen, if we make Baylor one-dimensional again this year, this game like we did to West Virginia, it's gonna be a long game for Baylor. I really think that this one might get out of hand. We have the propensity, because we have a good defense. If our offense clicks at even half of what we were doing last game, I think this Baylor game may get out of hand, and I think we win the game. Obviously, we'll talk about that in the score predictions. But if they get behind and they get a slow start, our defense is going to make them pay for it. And if our offense can score, I'd say if we can put up 21 points, or even, I wouldn't even say 21 points. I'd say 17 points going into the half, especially after what happened against West Virginia, where we came out firing in the third quarter. I think it's going to be a really, really long game for Baylor because their offensive line isn't great. Their defense is not great. And they're kind of demoralized on a 2-game losing streak. And when your own head coach is coming out and saying, hey, these guys like get down on themselves and then they don't get motivated, it sounds an awful lot like the Gush years when we lost a lot of football games that way, right? So if they come out from behind early, it's going to be a long game for Baylor football and Baylor fans because we are playing in Waco. Now, again, we don't play as well on the road, right? And it is a Big 12 environment, but, and you know how I hate to use that word, but I think our team is finding confidence. I think Baylor's team is losing confidence in their losing streak and don't have the ability to overcome that. So, Ben, was there anything you wanted to add on this Baylor game? I know you missed most of it, and that's kind of where we started.
Yeah, no worries. Not too much to add there, but I haven't watched too much of Baylor football. I've been keeping up with their scores as I try to keep up with the most of the Big 12 scores every weekend. But as you said there, I mean, we're coming off a win that we expected to get, but certainly did some positive things in that game that hopefully we can carry over to this one going into Waco. And if we can jump out on them early, as you said, Roger, I think that's going to be so key because, once you start to believe that, maybe we're not as good as we think we are, and a team comes into your own house and kind of jumps on you early like that, if we have the ability to do that and kind of get rolling, I think that is going to be a big key to the game. And hopefully we can do that. Hopefully we can execute some of those, staged plays early on and, come out firing. And I'd like to see a lot of, shorter intermediate passes to get Taven going and hopefully, break it open eventually in the late first quarter, early second quarter and see what happens against them. But I'm with you. I mean, we said a few weeks ago that we definitely had to win 2 out of the next 3 in order to make the bowl game. And so, which would really be great if we can go ahead and do that. And so obviously this is the next one up. We were able to win one of those 3, and I think we have a great opportunity to get one on the road, which has been rare since we've been in the Big 12 in general. So being able to get a Big 12 road win against a traditional Big 12 opponent, one that we do have a little bit of history with, even before we were in the Big 12, would be fun, and one that it looks like it's a coin flip game from an ESPN prediction standpoint. So.
Yeah,
So
the Baylor has a 3.5 point. They're favored by 3.5 points in the spread. And realistically speaking, to your point, Ben, about it being a coin flip, that means Vegas believes it's a coin flip too, because the home team has always spotted 3 points, right? So really, you're talking about 0.5 points. Now that'll move some as we get closer.
It actually moved. It moved not too long ago. It's a 4.5 point spread for Baylor now, but still, I mean, it's pretty close. So
some of those Baylor guys are throwing some money on Baylor, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I'll tell you, it's interesting if you look at the standings of the Big 12, and I know we'll get to that. Like, there's such a glut in this middle, and Baylor is a part of it. If we do well, we're going to be in the glut in the middle. And I'm going to assume we're going to lose a couple of more games. We're just playing too many really good teams. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's the reality of the situation.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about that too, right? So Texas Tech, for example, right? They lost their quarterback for the year through an ACL. They didn't, and they lost that game. So it'll be interesting to see how Texas Tech does without their star quarterback, right? So all of a sudden that game may be a possibility too. I feel like what I'm seeing out of our team is it's growing in confidence and growing in consistency, again, because we're not playing like musical chairs quarterbacks, right? And then 2, I feel like they're gaining in confidence, especially offensively. Defensively, we've been confident all season long, and we have reason to be confident, right? offensively, though, and our metrics would be even better. Think about, there's at least 3 instances that I can think of where the offense turned over the ball within 20 yards of the end zone where opposing teams scored. So our defense is really, really, really solid. Top 25 defense in the country right now. Right? Offensively, they're starting to catch fire. So I think we're on the up as long as Taven stays vertical and doesn't get hurt. I don't know if you hear that. I'm knocking on my desk. Right? But, I feel like this team's finally starting to gel together, especially with the long ball. Taven seeing the field better. He's understanding the offense a little bit better. He's making checks. They're getting a little bit of consistency with the wide receivers. They've kind of shaken out that room to see, okay, who can be there, who can't. Wade is back. Wade was really, really important to us early as a pass-catching wide receiver. We lost him for 2 or 3 games. We got him back into the mix. We're spreading the ball around. You've got 11 receivers, I think, or 12 receivers that got the ball last game against West Virginia. It's been consistent between 9 and 11 different receivers have been catching balls from the quarterbacks. So we can spread it around. A lot of that has to do with the fact that, again, we're a scheme offense. We're not we're an offense that's schemed every week for the specific opponent that we have to take care of vulnerabilities. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing the ball being spread around like that. So I think with Taven getting some confidence, us getting some consistency in play, figuring out the wide receiver room because DJ Black dropped so many passes, and then the wide receivers getting some time with a consistent quarterback, which allows the quarterback to figure out where he needs to throw the ball and lead the ball because he's throwing the ball to where the receiver should be, not the other way around. B, it allows the receivers to understand the system and where they should be a little bit more. And C, they understand how to catch because you do adjust to the quarterback as well. So I think those are all in our favor right now. We're on the up.
Yeah, as long as as we said, knock on wood, as long as he can stay healthy. I think it's more of, I think it's just as much as how we believe of the quarterback options that Taven's the best one, and have confidence in him as a group, but also just having consistency at that position in general, is so needed for our team. I think that's, I mean, you could easily point to, along with the offensive line struggles and everything that they've gone through this year, like you can point to that just in the inconsistency under center of being a tough thing for us to deal with on offense this year. And we can just get that for a few games in a row here. We could, start to build on that momentum that you're talking about.
Yeah. And, Houston, we'll talk about it when we talk about the Big 12 results, right? Houston is another team, but they're winning games, but I think they're beatable. I think Utah.
Yeah, are they good? Like, we don't know if they're good yet. We're just a little bit confusing.
Yeah, like Utah or BYU, both of those teams, I feel pretty confident that this team would not win against either team, right? They're dominating, especially defensively.
That BYU
right?
game ain't going to happen at the end of the year. We got to have 6 wins before that game.
Yeah, so I think we do. I think we win this game and then we have OSU. But even if we don't, for whatever reason, and I don't think we're going to pull a 2023 Gus Malzahn where we're ahead 37-7 or something, and then they come back, and win the game. That the Baylor team itself, just from the way, the scores and the games that I saw, and they were in a close one with TCU, but TCU has no defense. Their defense is terrible. I think because of our defense, I think that puts us ahead. I think we demoralize them. If they get a late start, we can get ahead early, even if it's 17 points in the first half. If you're getting 17-3 score going into the half, especially after coming out in the third last game against West Virginia, like we did, I think this is going to be a long game for Baylor because they just don't have the defensive chops to stop us, I don't think. So, whether it be their line and because they don't have a solid line, we have the ability to run. If we get the running game going too, as well as the passing game, it's going to be a really long day for Baylor football and Baylor football fans. And I think it's going to be. So let's go ahead and talk about our score. No, we're not swimming. Well, I guess we could swim it. Let's go ahead and talk about our score predictions. We didn't have those last week. So the last we had was we went over our West Virginia results, but let's go ahead and talk about the Baylor Bears this week. Ben, I'm going to go ahead and start with you since you always copy my score predictions and one up me anyway. So
Man, considering literally since last year, I've gone first every single time. You die on the hill of that little statement.
And Roger will rarely go first, by the way. Let's just be very clear here.
I always go last.
It's just wild how
my job, right?
How he just is stuck with this theme for so long. Honestly,
well, it's great. It's just the thing now, right?
I haven't thought too much about the score prediction, but I'll just throw one out there. I do agree with you. I think our offense continues to get a little rolling this week. I'm going to go ahead and go with 34.
Man.
34-21.
Jesus.
34-21.
I swear. I was thinking. I was thinking 34, and I was going to go 21.
Whatever, Roger. You just always copy.
I
really was.
And I'll go right
copy me, man.
No. I will say this. I wasn't thinking 34-21. I was thinking 34-24. So I'll prices right you on that because I think it'll be a little bit a tighter game. But yeah, as soon as you go 24, look at because you're not paying attention to the screen.
I'm not looking at the notes. I was looking at the ESPN page and I saw the over under as 60. So I was just trying to
do some math. See. Here's the thing. I trust my instinct. It's kind of a thing I do. I didn't even look at that. I didn't look at the spread. I feel like our special teams are doing pretty solid. Field goals are feeling pretty good. This is I won't say the first time, but it's been a while, maybe since Matty Ice, that we're like, oh yeah, we got a kicker, right? And solid on the kicker. Maybe first year boomer. But yeah, exactly. So
50
I feel
yards,
like
I'm not scared of a 50-yard field goal kick or attempt. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, agreed. So I think there's going to be scoring in this game. There has to be. Our defense is good, and their defense is not, which is weird talking about a Aranda team, but the numbers don't lie. So I feel like it's going to be a pretty, I would say, high scoring game. I don't think it's going to be like the 50s. I hope I can run that back and it's wrong, and it is. But I feel like a good 10-point win would be phenomenal and feels right.
Okay. I'm going to go 38-17. I'm going to go all in a little bit on our defense here. I think that
Did you say 38-17 or?
I did.
38. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And here's why I think that. Okay. So one, I do think our defense is going to get them off the field. They're going to try for fourth down attempts. They do that quite a bit, and they're 50% in fourth down attempts. So they are comfortable making third down a how should we say this? A distance down, right? So like if it's third and manageable, they're okay running up the gut for a couple of yards or whatever to go into fourth down, depending on where they are on the field. Their playbook is not limited by that. However, I do think their offensive line, from what I've seen, is not great. And because their offensive line is not great, and we have a really, really good defensive line who seems to be getting better throughout the season, I do think that's going to cause a lot of problems for them, especially with a pass-happy team. So their rushing attempts, they're 4.2 yards per carry. They're not a great running team. And I think because of that, they're going to be, especially if they get behind early or they don't get going until the third or fourth quarter, our defense is going to tee off on them, and it's going to cause them to have a lot of 3-and-outs or 4-and-outs. I don't think they're going to get very deep into series, and I think they're going to get them off of the field quickly, which is going to give us the ball. I do think our offense, their defense is also not great, especially against the run game. They're giving up 6 or 7 yards per carry in a lot of these games. And if Taven is, and I do feel he's taken a step forward now, right? if Taven's in the game and he starts popping some of these passes, if they try to cover up and go, into a zone, then what'll end up happening is I think that we can hit them with our running game. I think this is a game where Miles Montgomery could shine. And if that's the case, or we pop off Nixon for a couple of long yards, we set him up with Miles over and over and over again, and then we pop in Nixon and let him, go for a big gain or a touchdown. I think that could pile up on Baylor pretty quickly, because they have a penchant to start slow, and we have a really, really good defense, and we can get them behind the chains and get them off the field, which puts the ball in our hands a lot more often. And the teams that they've been close with have had mediocre to bad defenses. We've got a really, really good defense. Those that have good defenses, they've been scoring maybe 20 to 23 points per game. I think our defense is good enough to hold them to 17 points. And I think our offense will have enough chances and have grown enough, especially if we can run the ball, to make this a 38-17 game. Now, I know that was a super detailed answer, and I'm sorry if that sounded boring, but I wanted you to understand the mindset of where that was coming from. I was thinking 34 just to be a little more conservative, because I have been less conservative this season on my predictions. And I was legitimately thinking 34, but I'm comfortable saying 38-17 because I think our defense is better than what we're giving them credit for. I think our offense is finally figuring it out.
Man, I was scrolling through these. I know we haven't added them up yet, but I'm feeling pretty good about my predictions this year. I think I might be close to the leader in point differential, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I've got to add them all up. What I can say is I'm not last, so that's a good thing, and which means that I'm not buying the steak for this one. So I'm good with that. As long as I'm not last and someone else is buying steak, I'm happy.
Yeah, I was like that. The West Virginia score, I was a little more bullish on that one. I was able to kind of increase the lead, maybe, if I have a lead. I didn't add them up either, but it looked pretty good. I'm definitely not last either, but I might be first. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I started off the season strong. I led the clubhouse out of that one at 56-10 with 15-point differential, and people were off 47, 30, 40, 30. Yeah. So, but this team's been hard to figure out, right? It's been really hard to figure out because we didn't know what we were going to get on offense this year. There was no consistency there. But I think this team now is finding its stride. I think we've got a quarterback. And I think, to your point, Josh, I think that this is a mid-tier Big 12 football team. It could have very easily been a mid-tier Big 12 football team that moved up, which was not what we were expecting coming into this season. I think they're better than we thought they were. I think the offense took a while to catch up, but I think they're hitting their stride now. So, all right. Let's go ahead and swiv it yet again.
Swiv it?
All right. We're going to, and I just realized, because I'm also doing the
millions of things.
Yeah, that I forgot to.
We're still at welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the show.
We didn't do any of the banners, so I'm going to go real quick through the banners. All right, here's the Week 9 preview.
He was just welcoming. He was just holding on to that graphic until I got on the show.
Exactly. I don't know what Chikara in the chat was talking about, but maybe it was that. Maybe it was like WTF, and it's like, well, where are all the banners? Maybe that's what that was for.
Well, there you go. Pick your poison score prediction, and now we're on to other UCF news, and there's a lot to talk about this week. Number one, stadium upgrades. The chain link fence, maybe no more. So it'll be really, really interesting to see. People have complained about that for years. Yes. Hey, we did our stadium on a budget. We talked to actually Josh and I talked to why can't I think of his name right now? David Hansen. Yeah. We talked to David Hansen, who's been at UCF since the beginning of the stadium. And we did do it on the cheap. Yeah, I will say this. The water fountain debacle that we get made fun of and that we make fun of, I'm not going to give the details on it because we promised David we wouldn't, but I can tell you that Keith Tribble is the reason we had the water debacle, amongst all the other debacles.
I was about to say, yeah, we could blame a lot of debacles on Keith.
No, but it was that. Let's just put it this way: Keith Tribble made some conscious decisions, and granted, other football stadiums, David gave us some perspective too, make some similar decisions, but that's why. All right. Yeah. But what we are getting is obviously the new Roth Tower. I was looking at that. Ooh. I took pictures of that. I went to the Hoops game this weekend against LSU. I took some more pictures of that. If you're over on campus, you now get to see how much square footage we're actually adding, because the depth of the tower is so much deeper than what I expected it to be. And when you're now starting to see the beams, not just going this way, but the depth going back out this way, they've got columns, concrete columns in there as well to support that. It's pretty impressive. Another thing that we've heard is a new video board and sound system. So one of the things that we've complained about for years in the stadium is the fact that when we put our new video board in, we put a new sound system in the north end zone. Basically, it is booming because it's one set of speakers that's like pushing to the whole stadium. So you can't equalize it. You have to have it on blast. And I hate it for all the students that are on that side, because I'm, thank God they're young.
when I had season tickets, that's exactly where my seats were in 224, and it was rough,
loud. Yeah, I've been on that side. It is rough is a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be, and we don't have all of the details yet on the specifics, but this is what's been released and what's coming out. But they are going to be adding more speakers throughout the stadium. The other thing that has to happen, the DAC, we have a video board that's made up of smaller video boards. And if you look on the back of it, you can see kind of the metal where, in Florida, it's going to go bad. They on average, those video boards last about 10 years, and we're coming up on that to the point where we have to replace it. So they are going to add a new video board. In addition to that, they want to, this hasn't been approved yet, but they do want to also upgrade in the south end zone, put 2 smaller video boards on each side in the corners. So think about it, if you look at TCU, something similar to what TCU has as well. So the sound system will be upgraded, as will there be, at least our main video board will be upgraded, but they're also going to be looking to, in phase 2 or 3, they're wanting to put smaller video boards in the corners as well in the south end zone. The stadium club, obviously, we know is going to be, the stadium club is also going to be enhanced. So one of the things we talk about with the stadium club, you don't have as many, I'm not going to say amenities as what you do, because you do have some amenities over there as well. They don't have, like in the Cabana, where you have that expanded bar area on the second level, and then you have the third level as well, where you can stand up there with the shade. They don't have that in the stadium club. It's also not open air with the BAF. Because we're a clean show, I'm not going to say what that is, but you guys all know what the big fans are. They don't have that, and there's no air conditioning, which means it gets super, super hot. So that area is going to be upgraded as well. And from a bathroom situation, it's going to help as well. 360 concourse. So today, if you're in the game day, they block off underneath the tower, so you can't walk all the way around the stadium. That's going to be changed as well. Carl Black and Gold Cabana is going to be getting some enhancements. There's some talk that they're going to get rid of. Today's stream is for vertical watchers only. What? No, it's not.
I see 2. Yeah, I see both.
It should be both.
Yeah,
it
both.
should be both.
Yeah.
If it is, this is a new. Here, I'm going to hide that, but that's not. Yeah, I don't. It should be both, MD Knight. You should be able to do both. It's a new feature in StreamYard that allows you to do both vertical and horizontal. So you should be able to see them both on your phone if you turn your phone. If that's not the case, let us know, because that's interesting, because this is a brand new feature this week. Carl Black and Gold Cabana is also going to be getting some enhancements. There's some talk that they may go with a different scheme. Thanks. He says he's on desktop. Well, I'm going to have to play with that afterwards. This was a new feature that they said it could do both. I apologize if you're seeing it vertically on that, and that's interesting because we're seeing it both ways on our side. Okay. Anyway, we'll get that corrected for next week. So there's new features going into the Carl Black and Gold Cabana. They're talking about changing some of the color schemes. So you may see some color changes there, but adding some additional features that will help with some of the flow, especially downstairs on getting into some of the club areas and getting some more areas where you can buy food, etc. So they're going to be opening up that area as well. New East Concourse food hall concept. So we don't know the specifics on that, whether it's going to be like a food truck type area or just a building where you can go over and there's just going to be a lot of different people, different food venues housed. But on the east side, they're going to build a structure that will allow you to have more food options out there as well. The lower level fence, so not the chain link way up high, not the chain link way up high around the stadium, but on the lower level, mid-tier level of the stadium, that's going to get an upgrade as well. So that is supposed to be going away. Enhanced stadium lighting. So we added some stadium lighting on those poles over the last couple of years, which we finally figured out how to use. For the first 2 seasons, it kind of was a little sus. It was a little sus, right? But they're going to be adding lighting as well on top of the tower. So think about like North Carolina, where you see those lights on top of the tower that shine out. What that's going to do is it's going to increase the amount of light that hits the field to get rid of some of those shadows that you see from the players. It's also going to be color changing as well. So that'll be changing. Nicholson Plaza. So one of the things that they've been talking about in Nicholson Plaza and IOA Plaza, I think they've finally heard, I put it in all of my survey comments, is we were better at providing entertainment pregame in years past. So they're going to be adjusting some of that. They're going to be adding some video production rooms on the south end zone as well. So one of the things that was happening, we found this out from David Hansen, on the end zone where they've created that new, where the media trucks used to park. That was where the hookup was for all of the media. They, as part of this change on the other side of the stadium where the parking lot was, that was the gravel parking lot, they're going to be adding a building over there so that they can run it from both sides. So they're not going to allow the media trucks to park, obviously, on that brand new facade that we've created. They're trying to push them to the other side, but they're going to be doing that as well, and that should help with our production quality because we can run more cameras and run the production studios from either side. And then field cabana improvements. So if you've got the field cabana, great. If not, whatever. MD Knight 2016 says we need to add like a motorhome extendable awning to the top of the new tower. That'd be a lot of weight. And remember, the stadium is not going to be, it's designed to be freestanding. The tower is designed to be freestanding, which is why they put the concrete columns on there. That'd be cool, but it would be adding some weight onto the top of the tower, and I don't know what that does.
Quit getting lost in the math of it all, Roger.
I'm an engineer. I went for aerospace engineering. What do you expect me to do? Come on. That's why I'm in business, man.
Let him dream. Let MD Knight dream.
All right, MD Knight. I will tell.
Man wants some shade. All right.
I will
donate $1 billion. You'll get shade.
No. MD Knight. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell TikTok Terry that you're throwing some shade at him for not having enough shade. There we go. Although it will be improved with the expansion of the width of the tower. Okay. We talked about Stacey Gage having surgery. Game day is headed to Cincinnati for their game this weekend. So, the only reason I bring that up is I want to ask this question. Okay. So now we've got BYU that's ranked, Houston that's ranked, and Cincinnati that's ranked. And guess who's not ranked? Us. Okay. Yeah. So how do you guys feel like about help that, right? Because we're the only one of the new teams right now that haven't been ranked. So let's like, how do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about where our program is within the Big 12? We've been consistently competitive in the past. I just think it's well, okay, so MD Knight says we're the only one that's got a new coach. This year, yes, but Cincinnati had a new coach. Houston got a new coach with Willie Fritz 2 years ago. And I was telling you when they hired him, and I told you this last year when they were abjectly not good. And the previous year, Willie Fritz is a really good head coach.
Yeah.
He has been for a really long time. He did wonders at Tulane. We knew him from Tulane. But even before that. So I do believe that time for Scottfrost will help, obviously. But I think just in general, we took a seasoned head coach into the Big 12 and did absolutely nothing with it in Gus Malzahn. So I feel, I'm just going to say this way. I'm going to use the F word, Josh, not focus, but feel. I'm going to use the F word and say I feel that this was indicative of the coach when Gus Malzahn and his ability to build the program and lead the program at UCF, and not of the program. We've always moved up. We've always had, maybe the first year we make a splash, whether it's the Big East, when it was still the Big East when we joined, that became the ACC, whether it was everything but the MAC. The MAC is the only one that we were just abjectly terrible in. I mean, we were horrible. Sun Belt, everything else we're good, right? But I genuinely feel like, guys, it's just a timing thing because it was Gus Malzahn and he failed, right?
I also think, I mean, I hate to kind of like continue to harp on this because
Diet Miami, I like that.
Others can perceive it as a little bit of an excuse, but I mean, of those 4 teams, we in UCF needed the full conference marketing dollars more than the other 3. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's just the donor base, the amount of money that flows into the 4 programs that you just mentioned. UCF is behind certainly BYU. I mean, we're not in the type of city that Houston is as far as large metropolitan area that big. And then obviously, Cincinnati's a much older school than us and a much older program, has a larger big dollar donor base than we do. And so at the end of the day, I think that we needed this full, the full transition to happen. And so it makes sense that, along with what you just said, Roger, as far as the coach, maybe not being the right fit to bring us, fully into the Big 12 where we were ready, where we were like the way that maybe we needed to be, I think is all a factor into, hopefully, we kind of have the right steps towards the right foundation now that we're getting the full dollars, and we can kind of accelerate and awake the sleeping giant a little bit quicker, now that we're fully in the conference. But this probationary period, I just think that was a little bit behind from a resource standpoint, especially when we transitioned to the Big 12 in the largest transitional era of college football and college athletics, and initially we don't have necessarily the resources comparably to those schools to keep up initially. And as we've talked about in previous weeks, potentially our administration from an athletic standpoint wasn't quite ready for the NIL era as some of the other schools were.
Yeah. Well, let's add one more to this. Cincinnati as a university was founded in
the mid 1800s, I believe. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, Josh.
No. Yes, it does. It does, and I'll explain. 1819. BYU was founded by Brigham Young in 1875. Houston was founded as a university in 1927. We all know when UCF was founded. I understand where I think your argument is going, but it's easier to have billionaires from your university if your university has been around over nearly 100, 200 years. The generational wealth that you can get from generational alumni that keep going and going back makes a difference. It's one piece of the overall puzzle, but that's a big deal. Like our billionaires are basically internet crypto billionaires, right? Or from other
Your new
universities.
money.
It's new money and from other universities. So do I think and MD Knight has a great note. If Coach Scottfrost was here since 2016, is it different? And maybe yes. I believe partially it's the coach. I believe partially it is of the fact we didn't handle NIL well. Partially it's because we need money, right? And I don't want to discount the fact that having approximately a 80 to 150 year head start means absolutely nothing. I think it's all these things in little bits and pieces intertwined that are the reason why we're not an offer in the conference, even with the new coach, but
All
we're
right.
just not where we need to be yet.
Okay, so you guys both have made your points, and I'm going to say it's all BS and hooey, and here's why.
We did just build upon your points.
Well, no.
He liked that part though, Josh. He liked the part. He liked the part where
No,
about his points.
I just want to say hooey.
Actually, I didn't make any points about money, nor did I make anything about the length of the age of the university, and I'll argue it here. We were in the same conference as Houston for a very long time, and we outperformed them. We were the top budget in the AC for a really long time while we were in the same together, and Conference USA, which is part of the reason we had success. Those billionaires, Tillman Fertitta was there during the AAC years too. He just put his money into basketball, right? Houston was part of the SWAC, right? They got left out of the Big 12 when that whole split happened. Cincinnati was in the Metro Conference. We decided and opted to join the CUSA when the Metro Conference was being put together, right? So they were not to MD Knight's point, I think. He said Cindy also used to be in an AQ conference for decades too. It wasn't decades. They were in the Big East at the same time that West Virginia was a decade that they were in a AQ conference, and they didn't do anything while they were in that AQ conference, right? So you look at the SEC, Mississippi State, or look at North Carolina, or how many times does Alan come in with his fun fact of the week when we're playing a Power 5 conference opponent and they've never won a conference championship? Or look at what Miami's done for the past 20 years, right? So my argument is, and the reason I'm saying this is, yes, they have quote unquote a monetary advantage. They haven't had one in football, number one, even when we're running an even playing field. And number two, I don't feel like the reason UCF is not at the top of the conference and competing for conference championships like the other teams, I think it has everything to do with what Gus Malzahn did with the program. Now, also back to, well, MD Knight, I agree with you, but I would put that on the screen. But we are a clean show.
It's on the screen.
Oh, it is on the screen, but it's small print. It's small print. So when it comes to your question about Scottfrost having never left, that means that you're assuming that he would have maintained the dominance that he had, and I don't know if that's the case. You can't answer that, but I do think that we would be better off and would have been better off if Scottfrost had stayed than with Gus Malzahn. But Heupel did well too. So Scottfrost talked about this in his press conference today, where he was talking about how you have to adjust what you're doing. Before in the past, you could have a system and you could continue to run your system in college football or specific plays, and they wouldn't show up week to week. Now he says, like, you put a concept or a play in, next week you'll be playing an opponent that's running the exact same play. That's how organized it is now, right? Especially in a power conference. But I would say, the Vandies of the world, the perennial, bad teams, insert team here that's been around for the same amount of time. As far as money is concerned, I think my argument for that is, hey, we were in the same conference as Houston, and since Houston, and we had and Cincinnati, we had a bigger budget, and we had, we had arguably more success. Now, since he turned it on towards the end of our time in the AAC, but before that, we were spanking them, right? So I would argue it doesn't have anything to do with the money. I think it has to do with the coach, because they aren't spending a ton of money, and they weren't spending a ton of money. What Cincinnati has that we don't have is they have a big endowment, right? And a lot of that actually comes from, believe it or not, penicillin, because their doctor, one of their doctors was the one who founded penicillin. So that's where a lot of their endowment money comes from. That being said, I would argue that it's just we had a bad coaching hire that didn't work out, and it just happened to happen when we were going into the transition of the Big 12. I think culturally, foundationally, UCF football is used to, going into new conferences. We've done it 8 times, all the way from D3 all the way up to where we are now. And I think we just caught it at a bad time. So my argument is I wouldn't read too much into it. Has nothing to do with it. Willie Fritz was good. It took him 2 or 3 years to get there. I didn't expect Scott Satterfield, when he came over from Louisville, to do much of anything. I thought he was going to be a terrible coach. He's turned out to be a decent coach at Cincinnati, and they've got Sorsby. Had they not had Sorsby, who, by the way, played with said Taven Jackson at Indiana. They were both in Indiana at the same time. Without Sorsby, does Cincinnati do what they're doing this year? No, they aren't that great of a team. They've got a few key pieces that are making a success. What happens when Sorsby's gone? I'm not sure that Scott Satterfield is a good enough coach to maintain that. But I think Gus Malzahn was abjectly terrible for UCF, and that's the byproduct of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about the Big 12 in general. Because one of the themes that we've talked about since before the season started, and it certainly has played out throughout the season, is just the amount of parity that we have in this conference. But yet, even with that parity, we have 5 ranked teams. I mean, I think that's if you're looking at it optimistically, like we'll take 5 ranked teams in the top 25 for our conference when every single conference game, for the most part, we're just beating up on each other. Like there's just a lot of evenly matched teams. And so I think that we're starting to gain a little bit of respect. I mean, obviously I know that the Big Ten and the SEC have way more teams than that in the top 25 and especially the top 15. But that being said, I think that does show something about the respect that this conference is gaining a little nationally, despite not having a few teams that are clearly top tier. Obviously, BYU and Texas Tech have been that all year, but by the same token, there's no dominant teams above that. So it will be interesting to me if BYU can keep winning. That they're one of the few undefeated teams, and then they're certainly outside of they are the lowest ranked undefeated team in the top 25, which I find interesting in general.
Well, I mean, there was an argument this week that the SEC teams is trying to say because of strength of schedule that 8 and 4 teams are better than 1 or 2 loss teams from other conferences. I'm like, you're high as a kite.
Yeah, that's just That's insanity. I mean, that's like the losing record in conference. Even more like what was it? 6 wins that in conference in basketball in the SEC last year, and they got in teams got in the tournament.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely absurd. The amount of obsession and the backing that you get from the media with that kind of stuff is just wrong. But by the same token, I mean, I think it was. There's a Big 12 Facebook group that all of us are a part of. I forget the name of it, but by the same token, somebody was like complaining about the difference between Georgia Tech at number 8 and BYU at number 10. And, oh, look at our records and who we beat versus Georgia Tech. And I just had to comment on it. I was like, it's the playoff era, man. Like if you win, if you're in the Big 12 or the ACC for that matter, and you win all your games or at least only lose one, like you're going to get into the playoff. Like that's enough. Like 12 teams is enough if you only have one loss on your record or no losses on your record from a Power 4 perspective. Like you don't have to argue with it that much anymore. It's a win if you're in, scenario. It's win and you're in scenario. So, like you said, Roger, I mean, this is where we're at right now. I mean, we're rebuilding our program after some middling years with a coaching staff that just quite got it wrong the way that you can do it here. I think it's just a unique place. I mean, we all kind of know what that means if you're close to UCF athletics. Like you kind of know that we're just a little bit of a different situation. And unfortunately, while he had some, good qualities, like I think he just guessed wrong in a lot of those situations. And we took a step back because of it, but doesn't mean that we can't flip it on a dime in a short period of time, mainly because of the era that we're in. I mean, teams can be, can have a couple down years in a row and then all of a sudden be a consistent top 25 team and kind of catch lightning in the bottle a lot quicker than it's in the past. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen necessarily as early as next year. But there's no reason to think that we can't take a big step forward the rest of this season and moving into next season. And we don't even have to do it that way. We don't even have to do it the way that a Texas Tech has done it, where they're buying their whole team. I don't even think that we're in a position to do that.
We're not going to spend $55 million on it.
We're not in the position to do it. But I think that with having Coach Scottfrost back, it's allowed us to kind of set a foundation and a tone for the near future of this program, where he's trying to get the right people in and being smart about. It's not really Moneyball. I don't really, look at it as that, where we're on some sort of shoestring budget. But I do think that he is being smart in how he invests in the right, the right players that are going to want to develop and be, UCF Knights, and then really direct the dollars towards those same players in keeping them here to gain the true fruits of that labor and that development to see, what we have seen in the past.
Well, Ben, let me kind of, because Scott actually talked about that in his presser today, right? So, you talked about the high schoolers, and even Taven Jackson talked about it, right? Is that in today's game, you get some guys in that have some decent playing time, and then they're going to look around and see what their best deal is, right? So you don't have the high schoolers long enough to be able to develop them, right? And so where you're making up for that is in the transfer portal. Now, Scottfrost, I don't think he had very much rhyme or reason going into this season as far as who he chose for transfer portals. I think he came in late in the recruiting cycle, so he had to pick up who he could, and I think he evaluated on tape pretty well on who he brought in for the transfers. But I think this team isn't that far away. I mean, you look at how close a lot of these games were. There was a couple things that happened. And largely it was because our offense wasn't clicking yet. So I think ultimately it's a byproduct of that. I wouldn't read too much into Cincinnati and BYU being ranked and us not. I think it's part of the reason is Scottfrost getting here where he did. I think what he does better than what Gus Malzahn did is creating the culture that keeps people wanting to stay. Gus said one of the things he hated about the new thing was you bring all these guys in because abjectly his recruiting classes were better, right? But you bring all these guys in and then you have to re-recruit them again. And you had to do it. You basically were doing recruiting 3 times a year under the old system. They're eliminating one of those, right? So now you're back to 2. One is the transfer portal and one is the high school recruiting classes. So, we'll see how it goes, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it was just, where we fell with Gus Malzahn. And I do feel like this team has given me more confidence this year. They are better than we thought they were going to be. And I think it gives me more hope for the future than what it was before. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about the Big 12 a little bit right now. So right now, UCF is tied for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th place, right? With the Arizona Wildcats. Colorado got destroyed last week.
Yeah.
So, we're in a grouping with Arizona, Colorado, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. We beat West Virginia. I'm confident we're going to beat Oklahoma State. Kansas lost last week against Kansas State. They had a ton of turnovers, which they didn't have against us. MD Knight says, did Colorado end up with positive yards? I don't know. For most of the game, they were at -8 yards.
There's negative 18 at the half.
Yeah.
They were negative 18 at the half. That I know.
Yeah, and they got to the fourth quarter. They were at like -8 yards for the game, right?
That is crazy.
And then they got a positive yards, which got them positive yardage, but then they went back and had another TFL, and it was back negative again. So I don't know where they ended up, Josh. I don't know if you can look that up real quick. But that second grouping, you got Baylor and Kansas. They're both 2 and 3. Again, Kansas was a very winnable game. I think Baylor's a very winnable game. Then you've got Iowa State, TCU, and K-State. I think K-State was a winnable game as well. Iowa State, I don't know what their situation is now with their secondary, but their secondary was hurt for quite a bit. So again, we're not that far off, even with the situation that we had with 70 new players. A lot of those players are seniors. So I know Scottfrost did a good job trying to get players that were going to be here at least 2 years, but we're not that far off.
Yeah, I got that if you want it.
Yeah, go for it.
Weird. So they had 140 total yards by the end of the game. But you know what? What really is, there's some weird stats here. They had 12 first downs the whole game, but Utah only had 25. It's not like Utah had like 40 because they just scored quickly. Like it's rushing yards for 422 to 38. It's just nuts.
Time of possession, man.
Time of possession is 33-26. 33 minutes for Utah, 26 Colorado. Total plays, Colorado only had 8 fewer plays than Utah. It's the stats are, and it was still a 53-7 win.
How many plays did Colorado have?
Colorado had 68 total plays, and Utah had 76. I'm sure there's a lot of junk time stuff there, but
that's still low. That's still relatively low, and that makes sense with the rushing, right? But yeah. Utah's defense is really, really, really
good. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, Texas Tech is going to be interesting. They're going to be an enigma. You got to watch out for them. We do play them later on in the season. What's going to be interesting to see how they do without their quarterback, because their quarterback is now out with the ACL. UCF still has BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Houston, and Utah ranked in the top 25. And you know who's not ranked in the top 25 this week is the Cows. Thankfully, they went down in flames.
One of my favorite parts of my Saturday, and I had a pretty good Saturday too.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little hoops. Ben, I'm going to hand some of this off to you. We played Duke. That it was actually a close game. So here's MD Knight says 2026 potential returning starters, 5 offensive, 5 defensive. Exactly. So Scott was specific with that, and that should give us a bridge year for that. Kane Archer, by the way, we talked about him last week, and we had some questions on Monday about Kane Archer because we were bringing other quarterbacks in. There was some noise. He did an interview on Tuesday. He's our star, 4-star quarterback, that our number 1 quarterback that we're bringing in here. He did a interview on that Tuesday. He absolutely is planning on being here in December. So Kane Archer is not going anywhere. So that was great news in spite of the other quarterbacks that we're looking at. So talking about hoops. So the Duke game, it was interesting because going into the half, it was pretty close. I felt like our guys could play with them. LSU, we were leading at the half by 7. I was there for that game. And the team did fairly well, but it just seemed like the last few minutes we had mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. First of all, Stillwell, good pickup for us. Bro, 3-pointers are not your game. The problem that I saw and where we are a little deficient this year, in versus Duke, it was offensive rebounding. Versus LSU and Duke, what I saw, Folks started, especially against LSU. He has good handles and he can make guys miss. I can't count the number of times that he was dribbling the ball and broke people's ankles. The thing that I think hurts us as a basketball team offensively is, one, we have great transition offense. We don't have good sets that are showing up yet. And we don't have anybody that can drive the paint consistently. We were spoiled with BJ and then DJ, and we don't have anybody at the end of games that can draw the fouls, get to the line, make the free throw shots, and drive the paint consistently. And I think that's the piece that we're missing right now. Although our 3-point shooting has been better, I've seen better passing than I've had in years. I see guys cutting backdoor passes, extra passes. When we forget about that and we get into one-on-one situations, I feel like we don't have anybody yet that's tough enough to drive the paint. So go ahead, Ben. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I think the best candidate for that is going to be Riley Kugel. I mean, he had 17 points in the first half against LSU. He was on fire in that first half. And he was scoring at will, and I think he has the highest potential from a guard perspective, certainly, but really in the team overall, to be able to just kind of take over when we need to, whether it be a late game situation that you just described, or just in general, just kind of give us an offensive boost. I think Riley Kugel is going to be that guy because he since high school, he's kind of used to being one of the most dynamic scorers on the team, one of the best players on his team. I know that he's bounced around a little bit, but that's been his kind of MO. That's the way he carries himself. I mean, I watched that kid play when he was a sophomore in high school at Dr. Phillips. I mean, I watched him throughout his high school career, and he's always been, kind of carried himself that way. And I think it's no different here. He wound up in the game with the LSU game with 21 points overall. So he had a quieter second half. That being said,
he had 17 in the first half in LSU, I think, right?
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, 17 points in the first half.
I missed it, Ben.
No worries. Yeah, he had 17 points. I hear you on Stillwell. I understand what you're saying. I mean, it is at the end of the day, he took 2 of them and missed them both. But I mean, it wasn't like he took 6 like Jordan Burks did and he missed all 6. Jordan Burks is capable of making the 3. He went from kind of, holy cow, look at this kid that we have during the Duke exhibition game, because he just kind of came out on all cylinders, had huge energy, was showing just how, I mean, he's a guy, when I talked about him at the beginning of the season, or, several weeks ago when I talked about this team, he's just a long, rangy guy that is super athletic, and he's going to provide you with it when he's on. And he was on at Cameron Indoor Stadium. He can really be an exciting player to watch. I think in that game he had 21, even though Riley Kugel wound up with 22 points in that game as our leading scorer. But he was 3 for 5 from the 3-point line in that game, so he's certainly capable. I think what's important to remind ourselves, and I know that I'm always like kind of this just let's wait and see type approach when it comes to the basketball team is, and maybe it's just me. I don't remember a whole lot of this kind of exhibition season that we've had this season, like in years prior, and I really like it. I mean, I hope that every year we get to kind of play a relatively top tier opponent, in a game that doesn't matter, but it still matters to our fans. Like the score doesn't count at the end of the day. And so like, I was really I was pretty excited by some of the things that we saw in the first half of each game. And I'm not saying that that's more indicative of what our team is than the second half of each game, because I'll acknowledge that the second half of each game did not look good. But by the same token, we do have to remember, while we are trying to win on the scoreboard in any game that we play, it is an exhibition, and they are going to try some things, just like in preseason NBA games, just like in preseason NFL games. They are going to try some things and some lineups that we may not see on January 15th, or on February 1st. Like, we're not going to see 11 players play across the course of the game. But you do want to see those tendencies and those early indications, most of which you just talked about there. And I think a couple of the things that on the positive notes that I saw, I watched the whole Duke game. I was able to watch most of the first half of Sunday's game against LSU at home, and then I had to go to the ballpark. But some of the positives that I saw is that we do have, kind of that strong positionless basketball like makeup to us, where we have the ability to play fast. We need to have more chemistry to be able to kind of transition quickly from some good defense to get the ball up the court and go for a quick score, because I know that Dawkins still wants to rely on his defense and be able to play fast, and we need to be able to do that consistently. I saw some flashes of that in the first couple of exhibition games there. Defensively, I think you mentioned that our offensive rebounding was a problem at Duke. I think you meant that we gave up too many offensive rebounds against Duke. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Certainly when you have a guy like Cameron Boozer, who is just every bit of the freshman All-American that he's looking to be. Just the big body presence that he is. And we got a little bit exposed there, where Duke was able to impose their size difference on us and get a lot of second chance opportunities. So we are definitely going to have to clean up our defensive rebounding. We're going to have to be able to, I know it's a bad word in college basketball, especially at UCF, even in the Taco Fall area, but we're going to have to box out. Please box out. And so we have to improve upon that. We have got to keep them off the glass, especially when we get into Big 12 play. So I'm looking for that in the early season against some lesser opponents. Like, I want to limit second chance points. I thought our individual defense was very strong, even against Duke, a top tier team, and against LSU, which is a very big team. They have a lot of transfers that are taller players, and transfers that are players who are used to being like the top scorer on their team. And I thought our individual defensive assignments was very good, especially at Duke, though. And I didn't watch as much as the second game. I didn't watch as much as the LSU game, but especially at Duke, we have to help our team. Like, our team help defense has to improve. Like, our help defense, we have to step up in the paint when they're driving, or get out of the paint in the baseline cuts. We have to improve our help defense. And I know you're waving your hand, but I listened to you for 45 minutes in football. So I'm sorry if I'm filibustering, but this is what happened.
No, I wanted to add to the defense, because like, one of the things that was in our text talk, and we didn't do text talk this week because Josh didn't have time and you weren't here yet. But and most of our text talk, since we didn't have a football game, was about basketball, right? But when I think about our defense, because that's one of the things that I commented on in our text talk pretty heavily, a few things that I saw that I liked. One, in the second game against LSU, Elijah Hulsway played a lot better. Local kid.
I was surprised to see it, to be honest. I agree with you. But anyways, continue. I agree with you. I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah. And I think that John Bull has a lot of he's got a lot of work to do. But I think Hulsway did pretty good. I also liked defensively what I saw that I haven't seen from years past, which is crazy for Johnny's teams, right? Because Johnny's always been known for defense, and we have had higher scoring games than what we're used to, right?
Especially last year.
Yeah, we're used to 60, 70 point games is what was the hallmark for Johnny. But what I saw was hands. And what I mean by that is, fundamentally, when I played basketball and I played semi-pro in Germany, one of the things that they taught us always was your hands are always up and in the lanes, not just in front of the person that you're guarding. But I saw a lot of people that had their head on a swivel, and when there was a pass going through the lanes or something like that, their hands were active. Even if they had their backs turned, they had their hands up, right? So I really liked that. I also liked that we saw a lot more traps. We got some turnovers off of traps. So when it came to that, we trapped some guys against the baseline. If they had the ball against the baseline or in the corner, our guys were attuned to that. They got in on the traps really, really, really quickly. The other thing that I liked is we're defending the 3-point line better. The one area that I think that I saw that was blatant for me to improve on is our switching. We haven't figured out how to switch consistently yet. So we'll have guys that switch that shouldn't switch, or guys that don't switch that should switch. But defensively, we're physical. We have our hands up and our heads on a swivel constantly. That's going to lead to turnovers. And I think that you're seeing more points because we're making most of our offense in transition offense. Whereas in the past, what we've seen is more set offense, meaning that we're slowing it down. We're bringing it up the court. We're passing it around the perimeter, in the past few years, right? We passed it around the perimeter, and then someone would end up trying to take it into the paint, right? That's inevitably what it was.
And that's definitely not what Johnny Dawkins wants to do. He wants to get out in transition, because he wants his defense to turn into offense quickly. I think defensively also, what's going to be very interesting for me to pay attention to in the early season is how do we deal with because I agree with you, John Bull, I just think he's too raw. He's just not quite ready. But if it's not him, then who? We have had the luxury of having a shot blocking big man in the middle to anchor our defense since Taco Fall. Like, it's not just like a Taco Fall and Mustafa Chiam, last year, but we have had like an anchor big man that we could funnel our defense to. We don't have that if John Bull is going to play 9 minutes a game. And he's a liability on other areas of the court. And so it'll be really interesting to me to see where our size comes from. And if it doesn't, if we're just going to play small ball and try to run him out of the gym. Obviously, JaMychal Stillwell, I understand what you're saying about him. He was a double-double machine at a lower level last year. Can he step up as this early season goes on and prove that he can do it at this level? I believe he can, because he's a savvy guy. He's a good positional rebounder. He's somebody who really gets after it on the defensive end and against the glass. So I think that he is going to step up and show us more. I think he's still finding his place on the offensive end, which has been a little bit of a struggle for us, but we all are. I think we're going to fall back into a little bit of one-on-one until we can gain some chemistry. But we need to gain that chemistry quickly. We need to figure out who the scorers are. Some other surprises quickly to me has been, I didn't think Devin Cambridge would get as much playing time as he has in these first two exhibition games. I didn't think he was going to be one of the players that would be a key rotational player. I don't know if it winds up being that, because I don't know if we know exactly what this rotation is going to be when we start counting the score for real. But Devin Cambridge wasn't one that I had in my bingo card as starting the first game at Duke and playing 24, 25 minutes in the second game.
He's a 6-year senior, so I'm not sure that's not Johnny giving him a little bit of
maybe
because of that, right?
He is good defensively. He's kind of like that Debo Coleman type player. I just haven't seen anything. Even though he did make 2 threes against LSU, I think he was 0 for 2 from 3, 1 for 4 from the field at Duke. Like, his shot to me doesn't look like he should be shooting 3-pointers, but I think he did catch fire at home against LSU and knocked down both of his triple tries. I think both of them were in the first half. And I was a little surprised to see him drop. And it's because I don't want to knock on him too bad, but it's just his shot to me doesn't look like a 3-point shooter's shot. Like, it's a very awkward form. And there's been plenty of good 3-point shooters that have it, but it just doesn't look like he's comfortable shooting from out there. So I don't know how much offense we're going to get from him. One last thing I did see about George Beal Jr., I said before the season started, or I said weeks ago when I gave this team preview, that if he's going to play minutes, it's because if he's coming in the game, he's coming in the game to shoot the ball. And
100%.
And he came into that LSU game when we were a little bit shaky it was probably about 4 minutes into the game, maybe 5 minutes into the game. And just right off rip from the left wing, just knocked down a 3. And then like 45 seconds later, he knocks down his second 3 in a row. And he gave us a spark. And that was when him and Riley Kugel started going off. And he wound up with 18 points in that LSU game, 4 for 8 from the 3-point line. Overall as a team, we were 10 from 29 from deep. But if you look at individually, 3 for 7 for Riley Kugel, 4 for 8 for George Beal. Devin Cambridge knocked down 2 for 2. And Chris Johnson was 1 for 3. He had a big 3 at the end of the first half. So you saw some good things from certain players, and maybe that's what's all this exhibition season is about. But man, I don't know
what I think, Ben, to add to what you're saying, right? Like, Johnny definitely put an emphasis on shooters this go round, right? And I think where you saw that's advantageous was the extra pass against zone defenses. because we had guys that were posting up right around the free throw line, around that area, somewhere around that area, and they were shooting twos, and they were successful at shooting those twos. So I think that we're set up that way well. We've got a 3-point threat. We've got the ability at times to make extra passes. And like some of the passes that were made in this LSU game, it was like, that's nothing we've seen from Johnny Dawkins teams in years past, right? Which is great.
Yeah, there was like late in the second half against Duke, and we were already down by a decent amount. I think it was 2 Jordan Burks. I forget who passed it. It might have been Stillwell, actually, like backdoor cut, and it was for a dunk. And I was like, man, I haven't seen a basketball play like that at a UCF, like a sharp cut like that in a while. So you saw some little flashes.
Yeah, I saw that. What worries me though is we went too heavy on the shooters, right? So that works well if you can find a soft spot in the zone, but when you're playing man, it's tough because what I saw both Duke do in the second half and what I saw LSU do is fortify the paint, right? They had guys collapsing on the paint. That's all they did. And they pushed us out. And we were taking some bad shots, especially at the end of the LSU game. We didn't make those extra passes. Guys were getting sped up versus Duke. They were sped up for a little while at LSU, and that's in that second half, the first part of the second half. And that got us out of rhythm. But at the end of the LSU game, I mean, I was there, right? It was 4 minutes left. It was a 2-point game. Like, it felt like the whole time UCF could just take this over at any particular time, but they just made stupid mistakes, stupid turnovers, or they didn't make an extra pass. They had people like Stillwell shooting from beyond the arc when it was still close, etc. So we were missing the ability to drive the paint and to get fouls. With Duke, I'm sorry, but I mean, the refs were just taking everything away from us and Duke in the second half to make sure that wasn't a tight game, in my opinion. If you look at the differential as far as foul differential and who was at the line, but that LSU game, 100%, it was 2-point game back and forth like the whole time. I think that we just made some mistakes late in the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game where we weren't making that extra pass, which is what made us successful before.
Yeah, you're not lying, man. They shot 13 free throws in the first half. Duke did, and we shot 3.
Yep.
They shot 23 free throws in the second half, and we shot 7. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it's an exhibition game and it doesn't matter, but holy cow, that's crazy,
and Boozer started to go off too. There was a lot of
Boozer is crazy, man. That guy's a player of the year candidate for sure. He's legit.
And that there's a lot of pieces of that puzzle. I feel like, again, it doesn't count, and we should have an opening season outside of the Big 12 that should give us the reps we need to really figure out what the lineup should be and how the team will play without getting too drubbed if we have a really off game. But it's going to be an interesting season. I can't wait to see a couple of games.
They are better than I expected them to be, and I think they have the potential to win a lot of games. You could see that they're learning how to play with each other. And I will say this, one of the things I put in the text talk, in the text that we didn't talk about, was the fact that there were several lineups that were there that just were not working. And I was like, switch the lineup.
Yeah. You definitely said that a ton.
You could tell he was just kind of playing with it a little bit and trying to figure it out. And so some of those weren't working. I'm with you on that.
All right, let's go ahead and, because we are now 1 hour and 43 minutes in, and swim it yet again.
Yet again.
All right. Let's do a little listener love this week. Econ Advisor says he picked West Virginia apart, meaning TJ, with medium and long passes. Cam's passes were mostly for 2 to 6 yards, which is absurd. Cam was courageous, but is a ball hog who carried the ball 20 times and passed 49. No QB in history took that much punishment and risks. The Econ Advisor also says Dahmer is experienced enough to be the big receiver, but several others, if left open, are sure-handed receivers and can get great yak. 100% agree with that. I think that's a big part of our success this season is figuring out who can catch the ball, because DJ Black was one of the big names coming out of camp and just didn't. He's got the dropsies, right? Which is probably why he was at wherever it was, like Slippery Rock or wherever it was that he was at before. So 100% agree with that. Econ Advisor also says Baylor, Houston, TTU, Texas Tech, and BYU better not overlook us or risk a loss. 100% true. And then although Texas Tech may be beatable now without their QB, we'll see how they do. I think their defense will be tough. That was me responding back to them. Tackling, he says, tackling is the best ever at defense. The receiver core is seldomly dropping passes and making great catches too. Last week, I would agree. Before that, I would not. And then moving on, Madame Boutique, who we learned her name is Emily. So Emily, thank you so much for telling us. Now, she says, long response, so feel free not to read it on air, LOL. Okay, Emily, I will do you that favor of not reading it, just simply because we have 15 minutes left. But basically what she's saying is she's going back and forth about Cam versus Tay. She agrees after this week that Tay is should be the presumptive starter. And she says that, up to this point, you really couldn't tell. I'd encourage you to read it because her points are there on the comments. I also put a long comment back to her and ended it with, either way, we love and appreciate you commenting. But we, to Emily's point, she was saying, hey, we had the benefit of hindsight. We've been saying this all season. But Emily, you still have a valid point, and I'm so appreciative that you continue to interact with us since the beginning. FTK 729 says this is actually how PFF is graded, and he goes through it. He's 100% correct. And we had several new folks join us and join the family. But again, I say this every week, you have your privacy settings set so that I cannot see who you are. So welcome to those of you that have joined us as subscribers. Please keep that coming. We want to cut Alan's hair. As a reminder, at 1,000 subscribers, we are going to cut Alan's hair live. So I will travel down to Fort Lauderdale if I need to, go to a hair place, and I will snip at least one lock of his hair. So make sure you're telling your friends and liking, subscribing. We appreciate you interacting with us. The comments are great. I know we're kind of short this week. Normally we do it a little bit longer, but we have about 13 minutes left. I want to give Josh a chance to talk about all the great things that are happening. And Ben has a little bit to say as well before we wrap up the show. So without further ado, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you commenting, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. We do this for no cash. We do this because
negative cash.
Negative cash, right? If I paid myself what I get paid, we would there'd be a lot of negative cash. But we really love doing this, and we do it for you. So please continue to participate. Tell your friends. Go. I'm getting ready to end the show. All right,
we're not here doing the
Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, we have literally 12 minutes. And
I know. This is easy. You should all know this. In 2014, on New Year's Day, UCF played Baylor and did not trail in the entire game. Who recovered the onside kick that effectively secured the victory when after Baylor drove 79 yards and scored?
This was 11 years ago, dude.
Yeah.
All I know is the ESPN.
That's not the era.
Who's on the hands team? Yeah, exactly.
Josh Robinson? I think I messed up the era.
No, Josh, no.
Yes, messed up the error. And this is anyone who wants to in the comments who's live, MD Knight, anyone else, feel free. Roger?
Oh, I don't remember who on the hands team recovered it. We had what I think.
Speedy? Was it Speedy? I'm sorry.
I was thinking.
I was
thinking Rennell Hall or Godfrey was who I was thinking. Or it could have also been JJ.
I'm changing mine to Rennell Hall.
Okay. We got changing mind to Rennell Hall. That's Speedy. We should all know who that is. If you're young and that's Speedy. Final answer for...
I'm going to go JJ Wharton just to be something different, so I'm not copying what Ben says.
Like always.
One of you are right.
It's probably Ben because Speedy had a heck of a game that game.
He did have a heck of a game, and so did actually... why can't I get Josh's name out of my head? His downfield blocks were like a thing of beauty. The wide receiver, I just can't pull it out. JJ Wharton actually got that ball that basically secured it. I can't believe you pulled that out of your head.
Nailed it.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So I have so much more, but I won't even get to that. But I thought that was hopefully
Speedy Hall. Listen, that was no rock, no block, and Speedy Hall, 4-star wide receiver who came to UCF, incredibly talented wide receiver.
Josh Reeves,
Josh Reeves was the best downfield blocker I think in UCF.
Josh Reeves was good,
honestly.
But in that game, Rennell Hall. And like everybody, like George O'Leary taught that fundamentally, and that's something that we're terrible at right now. You can see that on our bubble screens. But Rennell Hall, one of the guys that could have been a prima donna and really asked for a lot of money in this era, and just was the guy who did all the dirty work and was just an extremely, extremely humble and very good receiver, whether he was catching the ball or whether he was blocking, and he got a shot at the NFL because of it. So, all right, let's go ahead and swim it yet again. Because there's some exciting news about UCF women's soccer. To a quick update on UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch and probably trade to. We're not sure about Ben yet, so go ahead.
Oh, Ben watches a lot of other sports with his kids, so we got that going. UCF women's soccer has now not lost a game in 8 games because they won 2 games this week, including one literally today. We're not at midnight yet. The Knights beat number 10 Baylor last Thursday, which is huge. And we also beat BYU literally today. So that happened earlier today. That was 2-1. Up next, we have one last game in Lubbock, Texas, against number 5 or 7. I swear, I wish it was number 6 or 7. Texas Tech in Lubbock before the Big 12 championship in Fort Worth, Texas, on November 3rd. I'm guessing they're sticking around because it's 3 days later. I could find that out for a fact, but I'm guessing they're going to be in Texas.
I do want it before they make their Big 12 championship run. I'd like to get Tiffany back on. She offered, and we have been supporting them all season, as well as should you, because the games that they didn't lose that Josh was alluding to, they tied some, but I mean, some huge wins. She did a great job this season, and I'd love to have her back on the show to talk about it. I'm a big fan of hers.
I agree too, but unfortunately, next Monday is literally the start of the quarterfinals of the Big Championships. I don't know if we can do that quick, but we'll see what we can do.
I will do. Tell Coach Tiff, if she has the time, I will do an out of cycle live or to talk to her. Because number one, she's an amazing human being. She's a great supporter of UCF. She's been here a long time. She's a gold medal winner. She's a national champion, and she's just an overall good human being. And she deserves to be lauded for the great things that she's done this season with this team.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll let her know after the show. Well, I'll probably send it tomorrow morning, although they're probably up. Men's soccer. Let's talk about men's soccer. Men's soccer was doing
starting to turn it around.
Starting turnaround being the Dukes of James Madison 3-2 as Rickle had his first career hat trick and tied Georgia State in Trey's ATL 1-1. Next up is Goin. They come to town on Friday, October 31st at 7 p.m. That is Coastal Carolina at home versus men's soccer during Halloween, which all the kids want to be at, right? UCF volleyball is up 12-8 after beating Houston in Houston 3-2, but unfortunately losing to Texas Tech at home 1-3. Up next is a Utah double tip, as we usually do, with a game in Provo on October 29th versus number 17 BYU and versus Utah in Salt Lake City on Halloween as well. Both games are at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All
There's
right,
a little bit more, but we're tight.
We're tight on time. So Ben, I'm gonna hand the floor to you. I will say it would be interesting to know if you can tell us what you dressed up as on Halloween, being that you have been so tall for so long.
Right.
But you have exactly 3 minutes. So
Yes, exactly.
What was
So I just quickly wanted to talk about my experience at the UCF Hall of Fame dinner, which was a week ago this past Friday. And I went there to support my former teammate and in Dexter Lions. It was all kind of a bit of a reunion of early 2000s basketball guys there. We had a full table in support of Dexter. And as always, it's great to kind of see the brothers that I played with. And I got the privilege of playing with Dexter both of his years here at UCF. And his speech didn't disappoint. It was awesome. And I texted you all as I was leaving the Hall of Fame dinner. And one of the things that I said is, which I felt throughout the night, is that's the type of event, especially with the inductees this season, especially, but that's the type of event that I think they should bring big time recruits to, because if you don't leave that dinner wanting to be a part of UCF and Knight Nation and like be a part of that, then you're never going to want to be a part of it. It was so inspiring. I mean, maybe it was just because of the particular class. Guys like Cornell Green and Alex Haynes, and obviously Dexter is a volleyball player as well, that from the mid-90s, who was one of the best volleyball players of ever, and her name is escaping me right now, forgive me. I don't have it in front of me, but by the same token, to listen to their speeches, it's just full of pride for being part of like a part of the foundation of each of their programs, each of their teams, but certainly the program overall. Miriam Metzkes Ochoa, her speech was amazing. All of the speeches were so great. And I was so inspired by it. Got to meet Dante Culpepper, which was really cool for me. That's the first time I had ever met Dante. Got to see Brandon Marshall, which is a guy I haven't seen in 20 years. That was really cool to see Brandon. And, we came into UCF together, grew up together in Winter Springs. But just overall, the night was just fantastic. And the last thing I'll say about it is I was inspired by the speeches. And when you grow up being an athlete, you always dream about maybe being on a stage like that and accepting a Hall of Fame. But what surprised me about it is that I actually even more so wanted to be the type of person that got called out by those Hall of Fame inductees and asked to stand up, whether they were a teammate or whether they were a teacher or a coach or whatever it may be. And so don't ever underestimate the interactions and relationships that you have in your life and the impact that you can have on people, because you just might get a thank you like that. And that was super, super inspiring. So,
wow. I don't know how many cans of carrots you got off the top shelf for some of those athletes, but clearly you made a difference. But to add on to your point and not joke, we make a difference each and every day. You have no idea what people are going through, so do your best every day and be the best person that you can be, because the impact typically catches up with you later. And I've experienced that with people that continue to in business, continue to reach out and ask for advice and whatever 18 years later. And you see all the gray hair I have. I'm 44 years old. I'm blessed that I still have people that do that at that time. So I had an impact as a 20-year-old. So you never know. Do your best. Be a good person. And, just real quickly, thank you for everyone for following along, watching, contributing. MD Night this week. There were several others, but there were a lot of curse words that I couldn't include. So Des Biloxi, Lily T, who's a former player who's contributed in comments both during this live stream and on the shows. Continue to comment because we obviously appreciate it and keep you in on the show. Go Knights and
Charge on.
And I know for a fact that Roger will not let me talk more than 15 more seconds. So what I'm going to do is figure out if I can get right to the edge of the line before I say something